Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tracking a crisis that is absolutely on a collision course. We're talking about the United States and Iran, a deadline that could spark a war and a countdown that has very much begun.
So this is it. This is the ultimatum that has put the entire world on edge. According to press reports, President Trump has given Tehran a really stark choice. You either accept these new nuclear terms in 2 weeks, or you face the consequences. The timeline is, frankly, razor thin, and the stakes just couldn't be any higher.
And this all leads to the one central question we have to ask. With all these forces moving, with these deadlines breathing down our necks, are we about to see a major war erupt in the Middle East? Is it unavoidable at this point?
To really wrap your head around just how serious this is, you have to look at the military hardware that's being moved into place right now. We're talking about the largest concentration of American air and naval power in the region since the 2003 invasion of Iraq. I mean, this is not just posturing. This is a massive, massive show of force.
And to put all this into perspective, let's just compare it to other recent operations. Unlike that 2025 mission that targeted Venezuela, which was really heavy on manpower, this move against Iran is all about high-tech gears spread out over a much, much bigger area. We're talking from the Red Sea all the way to the Persian Gulf. This is a strike-ready force, ready to go.
So let's break down the sheer scale of what we're talking about. First off, you've got two U.S. carrier strike groups. The USS Abraham Lincoln is already on station in the Arabian Sea. And on top of that, the USS Gerald R. Ford, which is the Navy's newest, most advanced carrier, is on its way. Just having two carriers in one spot, that's a massive projection of power.
And believe me, it doesn't stop with the carriers. The U.S. Navy also has at least a dozen other warships in the theater. This fleet's got guided missile destroyers, specialized combat ships, basically everything you'd need for operations in a tight spot like the Strait of Hormuz.
Now this next move, this is probably the most telling signal of all. We're seeing open-source trackers confirming that F-22 Raptors, America's top-of-the-line stealth fighters, are heading to the region. And let me be clear, these are not for a flyby. F-22s are sent in to clear the skies for the bombers. And there's a precedent here. They made the exact same transit just 4 days before the U.S. strikes on Iran back in June of 2025.
So what's absolutely crucial to understand here is the layered capability that's being put together. You've got the carrier groups with the Lincoln and the Ford. You've got electronic warfare jets like the EA-18G Growler. You've got advanced spy planes. The U.S. is positioning everything it needs to control the air, the sea, and even the electromagnetic spectrum.
Okay, so you see all this military muscle flexing, but what's the why? What's the strategic thinking that's driving all this? Why is Washington and some of its allies even considering a strike right now? Well, this didn't just happen in a vacuum. The whole crisis really kicked into high gear after those massive protests across Iran in late 2025, which were brutally put down. In the months since, Tehran has been scrambling to rebuild its military and its nuclear sites, and that has created this new sense of urgency in both Washington and Jerusalem.
So, from Washington's point of view, the argument for taking military action really comes down to three big things. Number one, nuclear nonproliferation, stopping Iran from getting a bomb. Number two, deterrence credibility, making sure U.S. red lines are taken seriously. And number three, energy security, protecting the flow of oil through the world's biggest choke point.
And that nuclear piece, that's the immediate trigger. U.S. intelligence is saying that Iran isn't just rebuilding, it's digging its nuclear facilities deeper underground, hardening them. And the goal is pretty obvious: protect them from the exact kind of bunker-busting bombs the U.S. would use. For planners in Washington, this feels like a window of opportunity that's rapidly closing.
And you don't even have to read between the lines. President Trump laid out the strategy pretty bluntly himself. This military buildup isn't just a plan B. It's the main leverage they're using in these talks. It's a textbook play of coercive diplomacy. You negotiate, but you do it while holding a very, very big stick.
But, and this is a huge but, a U.S. attack is nowhere near a simple decision. There are some powerful complications and countermoves happening that make this a really, really dangerous calculation for the White House. So, get this, one of the biggest roadblocks is coming from America's closest ally. The United Kingdom is reportedly refusing to let the U.S. use its bomber bases at Diego Garcia and RAF Fairford for any kind of strike on Iran. That's a huge logistical problem. It would force bombers to fly all the way from the U.S., which seriously limits how long they can stay over a target. And it's not just the UK. Major powers in the region, we're talking Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, Oman, even Egypt, they've all told Washington to back off a military strike. Why?
because they're terrified of getting caught in the crossfire if Iran retaliates. In fact, right now it looks like Israel is the only country in the region that's actively pushing the US to attack.
And you better believe Iran isn't just sitting back and watching this happen. Its Revolutionary Guards Corps Navy has flooded the Strait of Hormuz with hundreds of small, fast, missile-armed boats. This is their classic playbook. Use swarms of these little boats to try and overwhelm a much bigger, more advanced navy in a tight space. And then there's the big geopolitical chess move. Iran is sending a crystal-clear message by holding joint naval drills with Russia and China right on the doorstep of this massive U.S. buildup. This maritime security belt exercise is a direct and defiant signal that they're not alone.
So you might be thinking, okay, a standoff in some narrow strait halfway across the world, why should I care? Well, because the fallout from this conflict would have immediate, very real, and global consequences for everyone. And we can break that potential impact down into 4 critical areas. First, it would completely reshape U.S. politics at home. Second, it could literally fracture the international world order. Third, it would send a massive shockwave through the global oil markets. And finally, it risks blowing up the stability of the entire Middle East.
If you want to understand the economic stakes, you just need to remember one number: 21%. More than a fifth of all the oil that's traded on this planet passes through that single, narrow waterway every single day. Any disruption there, and you will feel it at the gas pump almost instantly.
And this chart really shows what that could look like. Analysts are projecting that if Iran's oil is just taken off the market, prices could spike to over $70 a barrel. But if the Strait of Hormuz itself gets disrupted, prices could skyrocket to $90 or even more. That's an economic shock the global economy is just not ready for.
And finally, there's the risk of this thing spreading like wildfire. Iran has spent decades building up a network of proxy forces across the Middle East, from Hezbollah in Lebanon to the Houthis in Yemen. A direct U.S. strike could light the fuse on this whole network, triggering attacks on U.S. troops and allies across the region, and turning what might start as a limited strike into a sprawling, unpredictable war. Which brings us right back here, to the brink. Is this whole buildup a necessary show of force to get a dangerous regime to the table? Or is it a catastrophic miscalculation that's pushing the world towards a war with consequences nobody can truly predict? We're likely going to find out the answer in a matter of days, not weeks.